it's the Fish from the Fish Game podcast. The fish, so no fish out there, no fish out there in the sea other than me. That was a rhyme scheme, and you see. I'm probably going to delete that soon. But anyway, it's Fish from the Fish Game podcast, and I'm here just to talk about one movie, John Wick 3. John Wick 3, if you haven't known already, John Wick is a hitman, of course, fantasy, a hitman character who inevitably gets a lot of wrong done to him in the first one. His wife passed away, and not too long after that, some robbers come and rob his car, kill his dog. It's just crazy. But these people were connected to the organization that he used to work with, an organization built of assassins. It's quite interesting, though, just the way they did it, the way they portrayed the world in the first one. It wasn't too much where it wasn't unbelievable. It was just enough to where, like, oh, this could actually be a real thing that could be happening in the world. Very far-fetched still, but it was, the way it was executed was done so well. The action and the choreography done with the action and just the visuals in general were such a fresh take on how an action movie should be and how real you should have it. I mean, Keanu Reeves did, from what I gather, pretty much 95% of his stunts. That's what he says himself, or at least 90% of it. So that was from the first John Wick. And then John Wick, the first one, was pretty much a cult-following film, garnered a lot of respect and a lot of praise from the underground. And then, of course, the second one comes up to bat. Is it going to be as good as the first one? And inevitably, it actually is on par with it. It didn't really surpass or go beyond what it was supposed to. It just kind of was. And it was what we wanted from a John Wick sequel. As good as we could have, as good as someone could do a sequel to such an absurd, concept for a movie, but it was done well. And now, here we are on John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum, or Parabellum. I think it's Parabellum. But, Chapter 3, we're finally here, 2019. What did I think of the movie? I mean, come on. Let's start off from what I was just talking about earlier. The action, the choreography is just simply done so well. There's nothing that can compare to it aside from Mission Impossible, maybe. Maybe a couple of films from the Bourne series, maybe James Bond with Daniel Craig. That's pretty much all the action that I can compare it to, because it's done in such a unique way, especially since the stunts are done full. Like, they're doing all of these things for real. It's no cuts or any kind of CGI or any kind of and even when there's stuntman replacing Wick, you can't even tell. I mean, plus he's doing 95% of the work anyway, so when this is done, the audiences, we're unbeknownst, we don't know, but just the way it's done, the chasing scenes, the whole fighting sequences that link up together like a chain link fence, it's crazy, and not done for the sake of just action shoving down your throat, just action. There is an underlining story to all this. If you haven't watched the first John Wick or even the second John Wick, then I would recommend watching those two before going into this. Do you need to watch those per se to have a good time with this? I kind of see John Wick like the Marvel movies. You don't have to necessarily watch all the other Marvel movies to enjoy Endgame, but it helps with the experience. You get attached to the characters, and that's why you should definitely watch the previous John Wicks, because if you just go into this for the action and the gore and everything, when there are low moments, which there are, you won't feel impacted by them. You'll just kind of take them as the low moments of the movie, when really it's a lot of character developing, scenes, and building the world as well. The one thing I liked from the second one is that they really broaden and widen the spectrum of this assassin world, and it was just something we haven't really seen before. We've seen it, done in certain movies, but not to this extent where the whole organization has rules. It has, certain things you just have to follow. They have a creed and they have a system they live by. And when that system is broken, well, it demands consequence. So in this movie, of course, John Wick is from chapter two. He's still running. He's still running away. He's excommunicado by now, and he's $14 million hit worldwide around the world. So he's going around the world, trying to survive basically, and see if he can find the person in charge of all this, the leader, I guess, of the high table is what it's called. And I gotta say, I mean, from the first 30 minutes of the movie, you can't take your eyes off the screen. I mean, seriously, you can't. There's so much going on, and there's so much, little story given to you just by the visuals. This, if anything, this story is told visually well. You don't need any kind of dialogue or any kind of, mood setter or anything like that. You just go into it and you just already know what you're in for. A whole bunch of action with a strong male character. And Keanu Reeves, I mean, there's so much you can say about Keanu, and just the way he acts, the way he comes in, and the way he does these stunts with such ease. You just, even if you don't know the story of John Wick, you instantly get behind whatever this man is killing these motherfuckers for. You just get onto it. So, going back again, he's still trying to find a way to survive this worldwide hit that's on him. And one character that's introduced that was, kind of a concern of mine. I didn't know if she was going to be cringy or if she was going to be forced down our throats. But I gotta say, Halle Berry, I mean, she just, man, those two dogs, man, seriously, those two dogs are probably the best pets I have ever seen. That's two best friends that I would want right now. They did so many different things with those dogs in terms of action. I don't know who's training these dogs, who's feeding these dogs. I don't know. One of them jumped off a building and landed on someone. I don't know how that dog did that, but it did it. And there was no CGI at all. So, I mean, you got to give him credit for, as much as some critics might say this is an action fest, just overload of action. They probably obviously didn't see the first two, and you gotta give the producers, the stuntman, and everyone credit for just pushing the limits of what you can put on screen with action. Not doing any kind of half-assed work. Even Halle Berry went into, I think it's called John Wick training. She went into John Wick training for 6 months. At the age she is, and knocked it out of the park. She came into this world like she has been assassin her whole life, and it was just great. Aside from that, John Wick meeting Halle Berry, why? It's mainly he has a blood marker of his own. If you didn't pay attention to the second one, John Wick was also presented with a marker from Antonio, and he declined it. And in this one, it's like he's like, you know what? I'm gonna go use mine, even though he just neglected the one that was presented to him in the last movie. But if you're not paying attention to the story, you're not really going to get why he declined it. The whole reason he declined it was everything that happened to him in the first one. He was done. He came back for love. He didn't come back to kill people for the sake of killing people. He came back because motherfuckers are just causing trouble and pissing him off. I mean, when somebody's got to die, they got to die. And those people in the first one really deserve to die. And in the second one, he's presented with his blood marker, eventually just giving the kind of the plot armor that allows him to be John Wick again. But I mean, you could call it that, but in a way, it just broadens the world of John Wick. It shows that there are so many different opportunities to get someone to do something for you, not just by money. Some currencies are paid with blood, like the blood marker, which he presents to Halle Berry, and of course the same reaction he had in the second one she had. Why the fuck are you here? Fuck you, I'm not gonna help you. Eventually, of course, she sees that whatever he did for her, she should reciprocate and help him as well. And Eventually she does, and they travel all the way to the freaking desert. Oh, and Braun from Game of Thrones is in this bitch for a quick little bit. He was nice in his part. I really liked what he was doing. First time seeing it, I think that's his natural blonde hair. I'm not sure, but it was nice seeing him in a role other than Braun from Game of Thrones. I think that's his name. If it's not, I'm so sorry, but that's one of my favorite characters from that show. But anyway, uh, yeah, he was great. I guess he was also a continental, just like Holly Berry. There's continental managers who manage the assassin hotels, and Holly Berry got that position due to what John Wick did for her, saving her daughter, I think, and I guess allowing her to receive that position. Braun, the same. He's a manager, and John Wick and Holly Berry go to him to see if he can tell them where this high priest, high table guy is. And eventually, of course, he says, fuck y'all, I'm not telling you. But, of course, John Wick kind of tells him, look, hey, man, I just want to see him. I want to talk to him. I don't want to kill him. I just want to plead my case. And he said, you know what? I won't tell you exactly where he is, but I'll tell you how to get to him. So he tells him he has to go into the middle of the fucking desert in India. What the fuck? So they travel all the way to fucking India, or wherever the fuck they go. Holly Berry and John. Why am I mixing up the names? Keanu, Holly, John Berry, I don't know. But either way, John Wick and whatever the fuck that girl's name was, go to the fucking desert. She fucking ditches him, says, you know what, I helped you, got you to the desert, drinks his water, spits it back in the bottle, and gives it to him, which was so disrespectful, it was funny. Like, I was like, you did the most, but alright. You didn't have to spit the water back into the bottle, I mean, Jesus. But eventually, yeah, John Wick is on his own again, in the desert, walking like Noah. I don't know what he's doing. Braun told him to literally walk into the desert until the guy finds him. Look, I would have given up hope maybe in the first hour because that shit looked hot. John was full suit. He didn't even take off his suit. Didn't even try to be cool. No, he was just walking in his suit the whole fucking way. And of course, this guy finds him, and a little disappointed. He was so young, and I don't know. He seemed like a fucking real estate agent. I really don't know what his. I don't know. He didn't really capture me as a character. He really didn't. I was expecting more. And he has some kind of weird Muslim tent in the middle of the desert that makes no sense. I will say this, on John Wick Chapter 3, it does push the boundaries of what's real and what makes sense and what is just really kind of stupid. But, I mean, at the end of the day, John Wick Chapter 3, as many weird disbeliefs as it might have, or any kind of weird writing, it makes up for it for its genuine love for the characters, its genuine love for the story, its genuine love for the real action that they're putting on screen, what they're putting Keanu Reeves through in terms of action and just all kinds of shit. So, of course, they make a deal with each other saying, hey, if you kill homie from the first one, Winston, I think it is, Winston Churchill, I will let you be free, we'll pardon this, we'll be free of the hit, and I'll end it all. He then goes to the Continental, I think it is in New York, he goes to Winston, and throughout the film there's this jurish, or I forget what she is, adjudicator, I think it is, adjudicator, and I think she, I guess she goes and investigates certain crimes that are had in continental areas, because again, what John Wick did was kill Antonio in on continental grounds, which is what he wasn't supposed to do. So I guess this adjudicator is coming out to look at the scene, see if there was any foul play done, or if anyone helped John try to commit this murder. And she goes on kind of a tangent, really kind of presenting herself as a big baddie and a kind of asshole in this in this movie. She just kind of comes and tells people what it is, and she's just firing people, just firing people left and right off their jobs, whatever that job may be. Morpheus, who plays the homeless king, I don't really know what his job is, but he pretty much runs the underground. He runs the streets. And of course she goes to him and says, you're fired too. just because you didn't kill John Wick. And he's like, fuck you. So towards the end, and after John finally hits the Continental, they have a discussion, him and Winston, about, the high table, and how, some of the shit that they're doing is kind of unfair, and they're trying to fire Winston at the same time just because he didn't kill John within the first hour. He gave John a little bit of a leeway, and they could tell that he has a little bit of respect and a little bit of, he's a little bit too lenient on John, and for them to see that, it's a sign of weakness. Therefore, you're not going to be worthy, or you're not worthy, but you're not going to be loyal to the high table. So, Judicator tells him, hey, you need to get your affairs in order. You got 7 days. I think maybe by the 7th day, John is already there at the Continental. Him and Winston are talking about the high table and how pretty much the fucked up this system is. And they get a plan to really just hold the ground at the Continental. A wave of soldiers come in. This is the last act of the movie. High-ass action. I think John was pushed to his limits so much in the final act of this. I mean, there's a few scenes that kind of seem similar to the second one, especially with the mirror scene, or the mirror glass house building thing. It was cool, but it was like, I've seen this before in the second one. It was just done it was just done with a little bit more intensity in the third one than the second one was. Yeah, and then there's one, of course, there's a big male baddie that kind of takes the role of, I think it was Cassian from the second one. I forget who he is, but a great actor. I don't know if he's from the Raid. There is a few actors that I know that were in here that are from the Raid. So it was cool to see those actors come in here into a better movie, and just to see them fight with John Wick, and just the whole choreography towards the end was just done with such intensity. There was a few tropes of some people not killing people when they obviously could, but I mean, other than that, you can take it as, a sign of respect, a sign of respect between these assassins, of like, hey, I'm not gonna kill you yet. I want to give you a chance. I guess from the second one, you can call it a professional courtesy, really, and that's what they do. Eventually, John Wick kills everybody in the fucking building, and Judicator's just like, hey, you know what? I don't want this smoke. Well, I mean, she goes on to say that she could send more men and just keep this going on for days and days and days until just either John dies or Winston dies, one of the two. But she decides not to, just because Winston, this whole thing was a ruse. He was just displaying his power that he had at his Continental, at his building, and he displayed it well. They ended up not killing him, but they were like, what is to become of John? Now, this is where some people kind of got a little pissed off. Winston betrays John. Simply just outright betrays him. There's no talking, there's no nothing. They're on top of a building, they're all talking. Him, the assistant, and the Judicator, and John. They're all talking about what is to happen, what is going to happen after this whole shitfest. And John just simply is like, I don't know. And then Winston just pulls out the gun, shoots him, he goes falling off the building. And I was like, what that was a change in character. Like, a drastic change. Although I got it. I don't know if he was trying to kill John, or if he was just hoping that he would survive, because that was a huge ass fall off a fucking building. I don't even know how John is alive, but he ends up being alive. He shows up at Morpheus's fucking feet, and Morpheus just saying, I'm done with the high table. I'm gonna kill everyone in there. Are you in, John? And John's just like, yeah, sure, whatever. So that's how the third one ends. It ends. I thought this was gonna be the last chapter, which I was gonna be fine with, a solid action trilogy, but it seems like they have more plans. So hopefully they don't drop the ball with the fourth one. I really want this to be a very successful franchise. It's done so well in terms of action, story, just overall character development. It could be better. I'm not saying it's perfect, but it does enough to where it's simply entertaining. It's simply good. It's not bad at all. There's not a real bad critical thing I can point out to keep someone from not liking this movie. I personally love this movie. So, John Wick 3, I would give it... How would I rate it? In terms of stuffed animals, I would rate it a Pikachu. A Pikachu is electrifying, it's cute, sometimes annoying, but overall satisfying. So, I give it a Pikachu rating, whatever that means. So, Pikachu, good rating. John Wick 3, Parabellum, awesomeness. And this has been Fish from the Fish Gang, and I hope you like this review. And I'm probably going to do a few more, maybe here and there. I don't really know, but I just had to talk about John Wick 3. It's such a terrific movie. I love it. I still love the first one better than all of them. I think the second one is a worthy sequel, and I think the third one gives it just enough oomph and just enough freshness to keep the series alive and keep it entertaining. So, if you like that and you like this review, like, comment, maybe subscribe. You don't have to, but I would sure appreciate it. So, this is Fish, and I'm out.